Okay, and we back at it, part 2 of the video series, and we're going to concentrate on compression right now. And yeah, one little thing I forgot to talk about when I was talking about equalizers, you can just skip over to here. I'll put that in post-production. But just a little thing that I forgot to mention with EQ is you've got two main types of, I don't really know what you'd call this, but types of equalization. So you've got here peak, and as you can see, FL Studio represents EQing, high shelf, low shelf. As you can see, it pretty much boosts anything. So for example, here we've got 4,800 hertz. Anything above where your EQ, your band is set to, will be boosted. As you can see, vice versa for the low end. And we also have our bell type EQ. So the only thing I really know about that is bell type EQ sounds a lot more natural to the ear, whereby shelving sounds a bit more obvious. So you could use this if you wanted to obviously make your vocals sound a bit higher. So let's try that quickly. Yeah, so what's up everyone? So that sounds pretty obvious, and that was exaggerated, yes, but what's up everyone? Yeah, what's up, what's up? What's up everyone? What's up everyone? Yeah, and then you just need to play with that. You can figure that out for yourself. Anyway, okay, compression. So the first thing that you would probably want to ask is, what is a compressor? And pretty much a compressor, right now I've been using a compressor the whole time, and that is just, so basically a compressor reduces dynamic range. That's what I've learned compression does. And basically what that means is it takes the overall signal. Let me just get into waveform view. It takes a signal when the signal goes in, and it reduces the loudest parts to make it quieter, meaning that we would be closer to the quietest parts. So when I speak really loud, the compressor kicks in and takes those loudest parts, makes them more quiet, and gives us a more what's the word here, consistent sound. And why we'd need that is we wouldn't want, for example, you chilling on your couch watching this video, you wouldn't want to have to go and run and adjust the volume every time I speak louder, which I have been. But at least this compressor has been kicking in whenever I speak loud and making it less obvious. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's pretty much what a compressor does. It reduces dynamic range. So with every compressor, we've got some pretty obvious controls. So this is personally my favorite compressor for vocals and whatnot. But pretty much we always have our threshold knob, and I'm just going to switch over to this compressor quickly. Get rid of that. And pretty much what a threshold knob does is it tells the compressor when to kick in. So as you can see, I'll put this in full screen. Hopefully my computer doesn't freeze, because this is quite intensive on the CPU. Go full screen. But as you can see, we've got peaks from when I speak, right? So right here, I almost put just my finger on the screen. Pretty much that would have been the loudest peak. There you got a loud peak. I'm speaking close to the mic now. So whenever the signal goes over the threshold, the compressor kicks in. But right now nothing's happening because we have no ratio set. And what the ratio does is every time the signal goes over the threshold, we can, so I'll go back to small screen mode. So I'm going to set my ratio to 2:1, meaning for every 2 decibels that my signal goes over the threshold, 1 decibel will come out. So really what that means is every time my voice goes over the threshold, it's going to be halved, only on top of that threshold, if that makes any sense. You should definitely read up on this. I'll put some links on Wikipedia just so you can get a more scientific explanation of what it is, but I'm going to try and make it as easy as possible. So yeah, that's pretty much our ratio. I'll go back to this compressor because I feel like this is way more basic. So there's our threshold set, and each compressor is kind of different. This one is a very basic compressor, so anything under minus 8.2 right now is going to be compressed. This one is a bit different. As you can see, it's 9, which is, it's just a different type of because it's an analog emulated EQ, so its numbering system is set up differently. Anyway, we've got what we call here the knee which basically means how hard the compressor kicks in. So basically this is really light compression, soft compression as we call it, and this would be really hard compression. So yeah, pretty much just play with those. You'd use a harder, faster knee for more aggressive, faster music. Softer knee if you were, for example, compressing strings or excuse me, something like that, something more subtle. Okay, and now we've got our attack, meaning how fast our compressor takes to kick in. So why would we want to control that? Basically, why we'd want to control that is, for example, if you have a kick drum, right, and you try and oh, my computer's freezing. This compressor always freezes my computer, so I'm just gonna take it off. Anyway, so basically what the attack does is, if you had a kick drum and you wanted to preserve the initial peak meaning, you see that was a peak right there. So if you were trying to preserve that, because obviously your kick needs like a definite snap to it, if you want it to be punchy, you would want to preserve the attack. So you'd want the compressor to kick in a bit later. So as you can see, the compressor takes a lot longer to get my voice to be compressed. So right now it kicks in a lot faster. So I hope that makes sense. Release is exactly the opposite of what attack would be. It means how long the compressor takes to return back to normal. So as you can see with vocals, luckily a lot of compressors come with this automatic setting, meaning it decides, it's got its own little algorithm to decide when it should return back to normal. So as you can see, if I'm consistently talking, it's not just returning back to normal, it's subtly going back to normal. But if I was to set it to 0.1 or 1 second, 1 millisecond, I guess, you can see it kicks back really quickly, but that can introduce all sorts of strange problems. So if you were mixing music or vocals to a beat, you would want to do it rhythmically. So the auto setting always works great. But FL Studio also has, it's by milliseconds. You can look in the top corner. You can set that to however you want. It's really, I suggest you read up on that. I can't really give you a detailed description of what I think that is. So yeah, next up we'd always have, as you can see, our ratio there. This compressor comes with 3 sets of ratios, and because it's an analog compressor, each ratio does kind of something else. So 4:1 I like because it's just quite neutral, whereas this one is a bit more obvious, but it sounds a bit softer, it's nicer. As I said, for every 2 decibels that go in, 1 comes out. So for every 4 decibels that my signal goes over the threshold, 1 comes out. Yeah, in the comments if I'm saying this wrong, if any of you guys are super pro engineers, tell me I'm wrong. I would just like to learn something. And yeah, that's pretty much it with that kind of compressor. So why would we want to compress? I did talk about you sitting on your couch, not wanting to adjust the volume every few seconds. Just gives it a more consistent sound, especially with rap music, where if you were listening to a full song and, for example, the first guy raps, so here would be the verse, as you can see the waveform there. Verse starts there, verse ends there, and then the next guy comes in. You wouldn't want the next guy to be way louder than the first guy. So you could use a compressor to kind of smooth everything out. If that makes any sense. So yeah, pretty much I'll just give an example quickly. Let's just see how, I haven't really mixed any of this, but let's just check what happens. Yeah. Okay, I am rapping on this beat like, yeah. I am rapping on this beat like, yeah. So that's completely crushed. And this is on the master bus, so it's compressing everything. Let me just get back to normal. But if I was to apply it to the beat, let's say, so basically what was happening there was, I made this song years ago when I didn't really know too much about mixing, but here you can see the snares are really loud in the song. So the compressor would go ahead and grab those let's actually try this. So what we're going to do is we're going to record with the compressor on, set to really exaggerated quickly. Okay, and I'm sorry it's a lot softer. As you can see, it's way softer, but we can still stick to the theory that this snare has been completely crushed, so everything is sounding more like the same now. The dynamic range is decreased, so as you can see, the dynamic range would be, so if you're looking at where my mouse is, that would be the loudest peak, and somewhere in between there would be the softest peak. So as you can see, we have a large dynamic range because the snare is much louder than everything else going on, right? So here we can see that the snare has been completely compressed, meaning it's been made a lot softer, meaning it's sitting way closer to the drums, the rest of the drums, the synths and everything else. So I'll just A/B the two and we can see the difference. I'll just switch off this compressor again because it'll run through there again. And yeah, I'll just try gain match so we get a accurate result. Okay, so that was at -18. Let's make sure this is a -18. And you can hear and you can even see that the snare hops out between everything else. Whereby as over here, it's still hopping out, but it just feels way more tamed. And yeah, that's pretty much what you'd want your compressor to do. Not that exaggerated though, but in a very minimal sense, tasteful sense. And that's where just playing around with these kinds of tools over the years will help your ear understand, you know, when to compress and not to compress, and why we compress. And yeah, the last thing I'd like to cover is dynamic EQ. And pretty much what that is, this is the fab filter. Whoops, I wasn't supposed to turn it on yet. So this is the fab filter dynamic, well, it's a multi-band compressor. But pretty much what it does is I could use this as a DS, as I was talking about earlier, and I can set the threshold, so it's just like a compressor. So if I was to turn it on, let's just turn that off, turn it on, and when I set my threshold, whenever my vocal goes, or whenever the signal in between this band goes over threshold, I can make that the dynamic EQ kicks in and compresses that selected band. So as you see, my vocals being compressed quite heavily. So we can do that anyway. We can do that to DS, we can do that to reduce bass. So if I've got too much bass going on here, you can see it's kicking in every time it exceeds that threshold. And yeah, it's exactly the same. We got our attack, how fast it kicks in, how fast it releases. So if I put a really long release, watch how slow that goes back to normal. Quick release, yeah, it's like instant, you know what I mean? Long attack, long attack, long attack, long attack, you know what I mean? So you're gonna have to go around and play and just try and understand. I'm not really gonna get into expansion, but expansion is really the opposite of compression. So what that does is it pretty much boosts instead of decreases in volume. So I'll just turn this on. So as you can see, it's gonna lift up. Yes, mic check. So we can lift the bass. If we feel that it's too low, we can boost the high frequencies. And yeah, we can set our ratio to how much we want. And yeah, I suggest you play around. I suggest you read up more. This is really just an introduction. Compression is a really, let's turn this off, it's annoying. Compression is a really touchy subject, and you know, even I'm still learning about it, but I'm just telling you what I know about it, so that you can also start. I'm just opening the door, and you can go ahead and go as deep down the rabbit hole as you want. Yeah, I don't think I'm forgetting anything. Pretty much I was gonna talk about wow, my compressor's been off the whole time. I was gonna go into vocal bus compression, but this is pretty much vocal bus compression over here. It's on our master bus, and this is the bus compressor. So generally, I'll actually put a picture of an SSL console right now. Pretty much what this is this would be the last item in the chain before reaching your speakers. So on the mixing console, this would be for everything. So if you had your drums playing, your vocals playing, you would then set your threshold just to kind of tame some of these loud peaks, just to give you a more overall sound. And the G-Bus compressor is known for, having a particular type of sound. So you can go ahead and play with any other compressor. They pretty much do the same things, but some of them are developed differently than others. This is a very basic digital compressor. So if you don't know about certain types of gear, I just suggest you use a stock standard compressor. And yeah, my computer's freezing. I'm probably going to restart it before editing this. But thank you for watching. If you watch both, drop a like, drop a comment if you enjoyed, and recommend any topics, ask any questions. I'm pretty sure I've forgotten to talk about certain things. But yeah, have a good one. Peace.